My name is Nigeria, blessed with rich human and natural resources, cherishes its core values that include work, respect, and sacrifice for nation building. The country is also known for the promotion of peace, evidenced in relationship especially between the two major religions, Islam and Christianity. It was observed that peaceful coexistence was a hallmark that translated to unprecedented growth as people helped in building their host communities. The promotion of intermarriages and the National Youth Service Scheme are as a stirring example in Nigeria. But over time, the cherished values and ideals were bastardized, especially on matters of peace, giving rise to suspicion, fear, agitations, hate speech, and other acts that undermine national unity and cohesion. But where did Nigeria get it wrong? How best to promote lessons of sacrifices which Eid al-Kabir stands for? How well do Nigerians understand the importance of peace, love, and unity in growing the economy? Answers after this backgrounder report.
Our tradition, our customs, our norms and values are not inculcated to our young ones. It means now they have no history.
Little Emmanuel Ladi says she and her father forfeited their Sunday service to celebrate with the family whose doors are open to all.
I enjoyed. We used to play and sing for Aunt Mommy that she used to give us plenty things to eat.
What we need is to learn how to be one. Is to learn how to love each other.
Peace building and lessons of Eid al-Kabir. Well, that's the focus of the program tonight, and that short report just encapsulates what we are looking at. The diversity of Nigeria. Some time ago, at a ceremony at the United States Embassy, the ambassador said, what has kept the United States together remains the diversity, and he believes that Nigeria can do the same, and they have remained so right from time till date. So, what is that thing that will threaten us? That will be the core of our discussions tonight. I have to my immediate right Dr. Muhammad Kabir Adams. Dr. Muhammad Kabir Adams is the Imam, Abuja National Mosque. Good to have you on Tuesday Live tonight.
Thank you, and may you remain blessed.
And all the way from South Nigeria, Cross River State precisely, Bishop Dr. M.I. Gospel Song, Interfaith Anti-Corruption Network of Nigeria, National Publicity Secretary of the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, Public Affairs Analyst, Anti-Corruption Crusader, and President Founder of the Christian Central Chapel International. Good to have you on Tuesday Live.
Thank you so much. God bless everyone.
Professor of Psychology, Andrew Zamani, Director, Institute for Governance and Development Studies, that trains scholars in peace and conflict studies and security and strategic studies. The institute is under National State University. Good to have you on Tuesday Live.
Thank you.
Well, along the program, we shall be going to Jos and Kaduna. As soon as the guests from those centers are ready, we'll be queued and we'll get to them. But for now, the program takes off. Well, before now, Tuesday Live is an audience participatory program. At some point, the studios, the phone lines will be opened, and if you call in, just go straight to the point. Don't read my role because of time. And as soon as you're queued, go straight to the point, and before then, turn down the volume of your television set to avoid the hallback. Gentlemen, once again, thanks for joining us on Tuesday Live.
Thank you.
We are just within the festive period. If we're doing Easter or Christmas, I want to start with Bishop M.I. Song. But we're just rounding off Eid al-Kabir. So let me start with Dr. Muhammad Kabir Adams. Peace building and lessons of Eid al-Kabir. Straight to the topic.
Alhamdulillah. Eid al-Kabir, of course, it is of peace, unity, and understanding. Going by the history of this event, when Ibrahim was commanded by Allah to slaughter the only son of his at that time. He was over 90, but he was asked to slaughter his son. Of course, he has to ask the opinion of his son. He said, "Oh, my son, this is the command I received. This is the prophecy I have. What is your opinion?" Look at how the son replied. He said, "Oh, Dad, my father, carry on. Do as you are commanded. I'm going to be patient." So Quran says these two accepted the will of God. They accepted the will of God. So the father, who is Ibrahim, is ready to slaughter his son for the benefit of mankind. And the son accepts that, yes, he is ready to be slaughtered as sacrifice to the mankind itself. So you can see the essence of Eid al-Kabir is sacrifice. Sacrifice in the sense that humanity will benefit from it.
So how do you link that with the peace building in Nigeria, given the trend of events?
If we look at the history of Nigeria, Eid al-Kabir has been for a long time. We are celebrating it. You can see everybody is participating in this celebration. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know whether this man is a Christian or Muslim. All what I know, we are celebrating Eid. So everybody participates. Even here in Abuja, if you go to Millennium Park, you cannot differentiate whether this man is a Muslim or Christian. They all came and celebrate together. So definitely, Eid al-Kabir remained the symbol of unity, peace, and understanding.
Okay, moving on, let me go to Bishop M.I. Song. What will you say is the depth in terms of religious festivals' impact on Nigerians as a people in terms of high moral values?
Yeah, we are talking about religious festivals in Nigeria. We are very popular as a people in celebrating religious festivals. Christians are even celebrating more than the Israelis. Muslims in Nigeria are celebrating more than the Saudis. So Nigeria is a melting pot for very high hype of religious festivities. As our Imam was talking, you can see the converge between Christianity and Islamism. And what he was talking is in Genesis chapter 21 in the Bible. And you take that again to Matthew 27, whereby Jesus himself offered to die on the cross for mankind, for the salvation of man, which is Easter. And then Jesus was born for the salvation of the world, which is Christmas. So you take this, you take a linear measurement across the board, Judaism, Christianity, Islamism, you must see a place of converge, a place of discussion, more than places of disparities, more than places of disagreement. So for national unity, nation building, to capitalize, to cash in on these festivals, we must teach our members. You understand what your faith, we are not asking anybody to make his faith superior than the other one, because the problem of our nation is that people are trying to make their religion more superior than another religion. And when once you go in that superiority complex, there will be restiveness and reaction. So you must be able to, like he said, you go to the Millennium Park. Now, I passed there today. You see that converge of friendship. We should be, first of all, Nigerians before we are then Christians or Muslims.
So how do we tie it to moral values as a people?
In terms of the fact that I should not hurt somebody because he's a Muslim. I should not harm somebody because he's a Christian. I should accept the commonness of humanity, the commonness of our origin, that we came from Adam and Eve is even more powerful than that you go to Saudi for your pilgrimage and I go to Jerusalem for my pilgrimage. And you take it further, that you are a Nigerian. The Nigerian factor, I am a Nigerian, he's a Nigerian, that factor, like you said, the US ambassador talked about it, should give us that sense of belonging. It reduces crime, it reduces disharmony, it reduces and possibly kills disaffection among tribal lines and among religious lines.
Okay, let me go to Professor Zamani. I'm happy you have Imam Adams and Bishop Emerson here. Now, you serve as the middle course now. Nigerians are saying that insecurity is increasingly growing in the country, and that religious leaders are not doing much, especially with the type of preaching in our mosque and churches. Will you agree with this perception?
Yeah, I am really worried. I'm one of those that is worried. But I'm not worried to the point that, I want to just apportion blame for the sake of apportioning blame. I'm worried on this issue to the extent that I feel that we need to do something so that what is left for us in religion will be what we use to salvage our society. Right now, what appears to be the role of religion in salvaging humanity, as far as Nigeria is concerned, has been lost. And that is why there's a lot of bloodletting. The narratives, of our religious leaders, in the respective places of worship are such that breed hatred and instigate violence. We are observing a tendency in society where there is a very high hype of radicalization of young people who ab initio are not happy with the trends in society and are looking for succor, but they cannot find it in religious institutions. We have a situation where lots of money is spent on interfaith dialogue, and these dialogues don't give us any results. We have observed tendencies whereby those who are at the core of the dialogue, who are leaders of this dialogue, when they get to a point, they revert. They take sides, and you're taking side, based on your religion, and so it becomes really very confusing to the entire citizenry where all of this is going on, because the person who advocates interfaith harmony, who advocates peace between people of different religions, who suddenly gets cranky and brings up issues that divide the people because of how emotionally upset he is, definitely confuses his own congregation, and he instigates resentment from the other side. And so in the long run, the citizens of Nigeria are saying, look, let's abandon these people and see if we can find an alternative. Now, and that is where the danger lies, because once there is a vote of no confidence on religious leadership, then this society called Nigeria is endangered. The politicians should take a cue from our religious leaders. The politicians should be led by our spiritual leaders. But here it is in Nigeria, where we have people who lead religion who are not spiritual. I am not trying to be judgmental, but these are issues that we must throw up, so that, if by virtue of any human tendency, some of our religious leaders, of course, I'm not indicting everybody, because I belong to a religion and I'm properly led by my religious leaders. You know, I'm a son of a pastor. And I thank God that I'm a son of a pastor, because if I wasn't, I probably would not be useful to this society the way it is. Yeah, but these are the issues. These are the issues. So there must be spirituality. And if there's going to be spirituality, if our leaders are truly spiritual, then we should see compassion in the messages that they preach. We should see love in the messages that they preach. We should see a drive for unity in the messages that they preach. And then there should be a convergence. You know, the point that you mentioned, there should be a convergence in terms of the fact that we have common humanity.
Okay, let me take off from your line of thought and go backwards, starting from Bishop Emma. You heard what he said, sweeping, but it's an opinion.
Doctor is giving his personal opinion. That's why I was not nodding my head. It does not mean I was in disagreement with him. He has quite a point, but you don't throw the baby with the bathwater. He has quite a point. But let me throw this up too. Who are the center of these problems? Are they the religious leaders themselves, or has religion been hijacked by political whims and caprices for selfish aggrandizement? You have to put a mark of demarcation. Religion itself and religious leaders, both Islam, Christians, are they doing their work? Or has religion been hijacked? For instance, if you carry machete to go and cut somebody in the name of religion, that is no more religion, because Islam is supposed to preach peace and Christianity is supposed to preach love. God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him should not perish. So Christianity is preaching love, Islamism is preaching peace. Who is cutting people with machete? So you can see there is a section of the religious circle hijacked by extremists, just like violence. When it was Niger Delta, when it was OPC, when it was in the north, you cannot say that all Northerners are Boko Haram. You cannot say all Niger Delta, I'm Niger Delta. You cannot say all Niger Delta are militants. Neither can you say that all the Yoruba people are OPC. See, the same thing applies to religion. That you have experienced one or two misdemeanors, one or two behaviors that are not encouraging, and we are not denying it. Like, that's why I said, to some extent, I accept him. But that does not give it up, that religion has failed.
I'll still come to you, but yes. The point I'm getting from Prof is that he's saying that the religious leaders, whether Christian or Muslim, which is the dominant religion in Nigeria, should be seen as larger-than-life personalities.
They are seen.
When they speak, it sticks and it stands and it flows. But that's what is not seen today.
No, that's his opinion. That's why I was disagreeing with him. Okay. That is seen. You cannot say a man who is commanding thousands and millions does not have influence over them. You have one or two that have lost respect, but just like Elijah said to God, I am the only one around. And God said, mistake, I have thousands who have not bowed to Baal. So that is what is happening in Nigeria now. You still have religious leaders. He quoted one. He's from a religious family. We still have religious leaders with tremendous, massive level of influence, positive influence in the development of Nigeria. I'm proud to be one. And I'm proud to say there are many other Islamic scholars, many other Christian leaders who are impacting society, helping, the rebirth of nation. And of course, changing characters positively. Let me shock you. Without some religious leaders preaching what we are preaching now, more suicide would have happened.
Yes.
More people would have killed themselves. We are the one that after they have been battered from Monday to Friday or to Thursday, on Friday they come to the mosque, we calm them down. On Sunday they come to the church, we tell them it is well. Check our messages, it is well with you. You will make it. Don't worry, God is on the throne. It's religious leaders specifying this theme in the society. We are the one cooling down the system. So that's why I said, don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. We are not denying places where there should be corrections and amendment, but we will not accept that it's a general breakdown of religious system. There is no general breakdown religious system.
Okay, I'll come to Imam Dr. Muhammad Adam, but our guest from Kaduna is ready, and if it's okay, fine. We can see Imam Muhammad Asharfa. Imam Muhammad Asharfa is co-executive director, Interfaith Mediation Center Kaduna of the Muslim Christian Dialogue Kaduna Network Center. Good to have you on Tuesday Live.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody, our viewers all over the world.
Well, we have done our opening thoughts, and just to hold you there, what would you say are your opening thoughts regarding peace building and the lessons of Eid al-Kabir as we just finished?
Thank you very much. Very important. I appreciate the contribution of all the speakers. Very important when you talk of the lessons we need to pick from Eid al-Kabir. Eid al-Kabir have a central focus, and that central focus of Eid al-Kabir is Abraham. Where all Muslims, wherever they are, is emulating the spirit and the culture and the value of Abraham. And Abraham, as the Muslim, emulates the culture, emulates his value based on the principle of the Quran in Quran chapter 6, verses 100, and Quran chapter 16, verse 123. In 16:123, God commands the Muslims to follow the path of Abraham. Millata Ibrahim Anifa, wama kana minal mushrikin. So when God told us to follow the path of Abraham, what makes Abraham unique is, number one, the purity of his heart, his total and unconditional obedience to the divine will of God, even which lead to whatever in terms of obedience, in all respect. And secondly, respect for his guests and honor for his neighbors and strangers. These are hallmark as a role model of Abraham. If Abraham have this as a role model, then we will see that one of the key important things today is to say across the faith tradition, Abraham, Muslims, we claim, the Jews claim that Abraham is they are the children of Abraham. And the Christian on the other side also claim clearly that Abraham is the father of faith, a role model. And for Muslims, Millata Ibrahim Anifa, we are following the path of Abraham. So if all the three Abrahamic traditions is focused around following Abraham, what makes Abraham unique in the whole world was, number one, how he was total unconditional obedience to God. And secondly, his respect for neighbors, honoring his guests and strangers. So if indeed Abraham was, the hallmark of Abraham honor was ability to respect the strangers, to respect his guests as his neighbors. If indeed Muslim and Christian, including the Jews in this country, we are following the path of Abraham, then we need to see it in action. And what is missing today is that the act and the value of coexistence, which Abraham is a hallmark for Abraham, is a missing link within us. Even within the Muslim fold, within the Muslim Christian, we need to see this. Nigerians today, Nigeria is one of the most religious nations on the face of the world, on the face of the earth, one of the most religious countries, but we find it difficult to connect their religiosity with the values and virtue of Abraham. This is the major missing link, and this is a lesson that we need to pick. For example, Hajj we perform every year. Every Muslim is performing Hajj. Hajj is emulating Abraham. And it is in this part of Hajj that the Eid al-Adha, the festival of sacrifice, was part and parcel. And in Hajj, for you to perform a good Hajj, la fusuk wa la rafasa fil Hajj, meaning you cannot commit atrocity, neither do you have rancor or you have grudges against your brother. If you have your grudges against your brother, your Hajj can become null and void. Your priest of worship. So if this is true, then it means that for you to be a true Muslim, even not only going to Hajj at homes, your prayers, your sacrifices cannot be accepted until when your heart is clear with your neighbor. How can you show me you are a true Abrahamic child? The lessons now that your attitude, your behavior, your strangers, those who live with you, those who come to your community, or those who are transiting in your community. Their heart are living, they seem they are crossing the red line. Their heart is in danger. They are passing through the shadow of death. This is not the path of Abraham. And that is the missing link. And that's why Muslims, wherever we are, Christians who are the real born of this nation, we need to reflect again. We need to think back and say, it is time for us to look, to reflect back, to do a sort of a window cleaning, to do a sort of evaluation of our attitude and behavior. As religious leaders, some of us has failed this nation woefully. I go in line with the professor, but I disagree with him to say there is alternative. There's no any alternative to our religious values. We have the good, we have the bad, we have the ugly religious leaders in our society today. And this good and the bad, and this bad and the ugly religious leaders are the super active minority. But the silent majority who are good role model, they are silent. You don't see them in media. You don't see them in the social network talking. They keep quiet, working, hoping it's going to be well. As my pastor say, it's going to be well with you, just calm down. We calm the people down, but we are not in action. The theology of liberation, we are not talking about it. The spirit of the culture of forgiveness, we are not promoting it in our society anymore. People are silent about this. So this is the missing link, and I feel there's a bigger lesson for us on Abraham. Because one important thing, even Abraham, this family, Ishmael and Isaac, yes, there is a difference, there is a misunderstanding, but together, when Abraham passed away in Hebron, Isaac goes straight to Mecca and meet Abraham in Mecca. Mecca was called Baka Valley in the Christian Bible. Isaac went there, tell Abraham, our father is late, and he invited him. And together, they went to bury Father Abraham. They forgot their differences, their mother, or no, who is the first mother, who is the second mother. They buried their mother. Can Nigerians emulate Ishmael and Isaac today and bury our hatches and move our nation forward? This is a responsibility on the shoulder of those who claim to follow this path. When we fail, we are not only failing ourselves, we are failing our nations. And that's why somebody will say, we are highly religious, but less godly. Something is wrong somewhere. And I believe this opportunity for the silent majority to raise up their voices high so that we can salvage our nation, because we have no any other nation but Nigeria.
We'll come back to you. Back in Abuja, he has raised cogent issues, but just before we joined him, I was just coming to you to ask you, tied to what he said, silent majority, theology of liberation, good, bad, and ugly religious leaders. And as much as he says he agrees with the prof and also disagrees, deficit in character is said to be derived from lack of godly presence in us as individuals, as leaders, and as a nation. How do you agree with this? Judging from the fact that he has said Nigeria is one of the most religious countries in the world, yet we don't tend to be tied to the line.
To my own understanding, we Nigerians, at times, when we witness one problem, we used to forget all the kindness. Religious leaders are doing their best in this country to unite this country, to bring harmony and establish good relationship and understanding among the citizenry. Go to the mosque. The first sentence of any imam preaching in the mosque is fear God, obey the constituted authority, live in peace, respect one another. This is daily activities. So, as my brother rightly mentioned, so many things happening in the mosque or in the church. No. When students in the university fails their exams, some of them, they may feel that they were cheated. In fact, there was some, if they know what to do, they can think of cultism. They will now find themselves in that. But we, the religious leaders, meet them wherever they are bring them closer to us, talk to them, calm them down, and we will tell them that even if you tried and failed, don't lose hope, because that failure marked the beginning. Marked the beginning. So the religious leaders in this country, for my own understanding, they are doing their best. You know, there are so many factors living with us in the society. So, for example, as my brother mentioned, I can recall there was a time we had one armed robber in, I think, in former Bendel State. And then, this is just one man who is an evil. So you cannot say all of them are evil. No. So if we have one bad egg among the religious leaders, we cannot pass judgment to say all of them are bad egg. No. Yes, definitely we can have bad egg among the religious leaders, because the religious leaders also are human beings. Human beings is by nature, yes, as my Imam mentioned, that among the religious leaders, we have the good, the bad, the ugly. Yes, they are there. This is human nature. Prof knows that, because, yeah, that is his area. So the good, the bad, we are living together with them. Don't forget, religious leaders, they are the one fighting devil himself. Devil has no problem with politicians or rich men. No. His problem is religious leaders, because he is doing his devilish activities. Only the religious leaders may come and checkmate it. They are the one to show to the people, no, this is bad, this is wrong. So at the same time, he is fighting them.
Okay, there's a build-up there now, but before I go to Bishop M.I. Song, the guest from Just Network Center is ready, Dr. Khalid Aliyu. Can we see him? Okay. Hello, Dr. Khalid Aliyu. Dr. Khalid Aliyu is the Secretary General, Jamaatul Nasrul Islam in our Just Network Center.
Good evening, co-discussants, and Barka de Sallah to Nigeria.
And given the fact that we are just joining you, what is your own opening thoughts on this program? Peace building tied to the lessons of Eid al-Kabir.
Indeed, very important phenomena, the peace and peaceful coexistence in Nigeria, and the lessons embedded in Eid al-Kabir. Well, I think the most important cherished value in any sensible community or society is that peaceful coexistence is the cornerstone, is the panacea for socio-political and economic development, without which we never can get it, and until we're able to get it. But what is the missing link? The missing link is the psychological complex suffered by Nigerians, all of them. I also maintain that Nigerians are special species of creation. We look like other people, but we don't behave the same. What is easily achievable elsewhere, it becomes so Herculean, so big, and so on and so forth, and until our psyche is really put in a straight stratum, this is indeed very, very important. And that, you see, well, until there must be compartmentalization of the various variables which impede the achievement of the peaceful coexistence in this country. Well, of course, you cannot single out one institution. Religious institution is one. The political institution is one. The political administration is one. The market woman is one. The our universities, our schools, the security institutions, security agencies are also one. The legal institution is also one. So it's a conglomeration of so many things put together. It's a complex. And in a complex, until you are able really to bring out what will make that complex work harmoniously in order to achieve that desired goal of peaceful coexistence. There's no denying the fact that, of course, if we center the issue of religiosity and religious institution, of course, indeed, and I always say, and I still maintain, the problem that we have today, well, the anchor of the program had really spoken about the worship places and so on and so forth. The problem of the worship places is for these places to be able to purge out who? Accidental pastors, accidental imams, freelance pastors, and so on and so forth, because it is a serious spiritual and moral business which requires a very serious spiritual drilling, knowledge, reading, and commitment to the will of God. Because sometimes when a religious leader is being shown to you, you say, is this a religious leader? Because by all intents and purpose, by all standard, he is deficit of what is really required. And I think it's very important. Let's call spade a spade. Let us tell ourselves the home truth. There are people who have made, well, who have not only the politicians, even there are people who have come and took over the pulpits, took over. People ordinarily who are not supposed to even have business with the pulpit, but because it is becoming a lucrative business and so on and so forth, and you have this. But I tell you, if these people, these morals, if they are out of these institutions, I assure you, within the shortest time possible, we will be able to bring back on track on their country. Let me tell you, before the proliferation of these religious institutions, worship places that have become business-based, registered as business institutions, engaged in one business or the other, and so forth. That was why even in the past administration, during the convocation of the Constitutional Conference, whether religious institutions should be considered as business places and so on and so forth, until there is tell the truth even if it is bitter. Without the truth, we never can get it. But I tell you, because people who will come and tell you their preaching is about prosperity. No. It is about commitment. It is really understanding the text the way it is. And the sojourn is not easy. When you look at the history of Prophet Moses, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, just for him to even take a sojourn of getting the scholar through whom he will undergo the spiritual and moral retreat, on top of which is the theology and the piety. On the journey itself was so cumbersome, it was so difficult. Therefore, until we get this, if we take these things out, the way we have in the society, of accidental, the media people.
The man from Jos Kaduna touched on a few things which I will highlight before giving you a question. There is a nexus between, I have to write this down, Islam and Christianity. Preachers of the two religions are being accused of not emphasizing that area well. That is, in terms of this one, we talked about Abrahamic covenant of the two religions. We are seeing one father, Ishmael, and is it Isaac you talked about?
Yes,
Beautiful, Abraham. For example, both religions have Abraham as their father. Why are clergymen not focusing what cement us together as their faithful? The second leg of the question is, there is a school of thought that says fighting corruption in Nigeria, we are trying to veer off now, can be more successful if religious leaders, preachers in churches and mosques condemn and expose corrupt people in their folks.
I'll start from the first question. The next, remember when I was giving my comment, I talked about the converge, the linear measurement across the Abrahamic faith, Judaism, Islamism, Christianity. They are the origin is Abraham, like our guest in Kaduna very intelligently disclosed it. Your question is, why have we not emphasized this? Those who know, but those who don't know, they
because
don't know.
Because the mischief makers always want to use that
which means religious violence is a result of ignorance. This is why I suggested some time ago, why can't we have Ministry of Religious Affairs? If Nigeria is such a religious country, 80% religious people, why is it difficult for the federal government, state governments to have Ministry of Religious Affairs? Whereby, because now the government, for instance, is trying to solve religious problems like a mechanic going to a hospital to try to fix the patients with your spanner. You cannot, as a politician, regulate or manage religious affairs. They are very sensitive areas. Me and myself and Imam can discuss. You saw when we arrived, we already started talking. The Prof was a witness. In 2 minutes, we are connected with Imam. We have already gone very far. We are exchanging pleasantries.
Oh, we are going to have a new interface.
But if politicians were to call us together over an issue, we will be quarreling. The federal government should think of Federal Ministry of Religious Affairs. A mechanic cannot go to hospital to heal patients with spanner. It is not their area. You've got to put the round spec in the round hole. But for the issue of putting out, the unity, the point of unity between the two major faiths, like I said, we have skeletons who have hijacked some part of the faith, and they have used it for their personal satisfaction. This we know. Let's go, for instance, anti-corruption. I was talking on an anti-corruption seminar in Ibadan, where myself and one Imam Shefu, who have been co-coordinators.
So let me just hold you there. You conclude your thought. Moses is online from Ibadan. From Kaduna, I beg your pardon. Hello, Moses. Welcome to Tuesday Live. Okay, the line has dropped. Please conclude.
Yeah, I was saying in Ibadan, for instance, why is it that when 5 armed robbers want to go and rob a bank, 3 are Christians, 2 are Muslims, or vice versa, why do they cooperate and rob? They share the AK-47, they share together, they rob. Now, why is it difficult for these same people on the other side of the divide to come together to do positive things? I mean, national development. I don't know if you get what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Now, 5 thieves can gather together and they don't mind religion. They rob together. This one does not say, I'm a Muslim. This one does not say, I'm a Christian. They rob faithfully and share the money faithfully in crime, in corruption. So you can see that, like we said, the emphasis is not strong on what brings us together. For instance, I would like some growing Muslim youths, as a bishop, some growing Muslim youths to know some part of what I believe. And I would like some growing Christian youths to know some part of what Islam is. It doesn't mean they'll be converted. I will never deny Jesus Christ and renounce him.
Sorry to interrupt you again, Bishop. Before you conclude and go to Prof, we hear Joseph is on the line from Enugu. Hello, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm calling
Welcome
from
to Tuesday
Enugu.
Live.
My own thing is that I love what they are saying about the interreligious affairs in Nigeria. Then what I'm about to say now is that they should enhance, tell the people the truth of what is happening and how things are happening there. Then that man that saved the Christians when they're having riots in part of the north, I think the man's supposed to be in studio. That man's supposed to be a role model to Christians and Muslims. So we need to live in peace and unity. That's all my contribution. Thank you.
Okay, I think it's not far from what we were saying and what Imam Al-Shafa said from Kaduna. So you could conclude.
I'm trying to make a point that will help this nation. I'm trying to make a point that will help the believers and followers of different faiths. That I receive a Muslim, like you had the example there, and help a Muslim, at least as a Nigerian, does not make you less a Christian. What I'm saying is that I will never deny Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior as a Christian, but that will not deter me from receiving him in my house and community, being friendly with him and relating to him as a Nigerian. I think this bigotry, this kind of bigotry and the myopic thinking among religious followers is what rather causes the friction, not religion itself. Lack of understanding, lack of exposure. That's why we should emphasize education. Even though we're talking about religion, we should emphasize education. Even if you have a religious education, you should also have a formal education. Like we talk about the NYC scheme. I served in the then Bendel State, and I have got a lot of people serving in Cross River State, Akwa Ibom State, where I come from. That the federal government should emphasize points of unity. We should not just throw everything on the religious leaders. I'll give you an example. What is wrong in somebody being encouraged to marry people from a different tribe from his own? There should be an encouragement for that.
That's happening already.
It's happening, but let there be example. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. We punish those who are corrupt. Am I correct? Do we reward those who are not corrupt? Big question. There should be incentive motivation to, for instance, when this Niger Delta problem was on, we started paying money to people who were militants. How much have we paid to people who were not militants? We need to consider some of these things and stop giving bad examples. We have to encourage people who are not corrupt. What are the prices of not being corrupt? If people know that prices, then we will not even have to be fighting corruption too much because there's enough motivation for people who are not corrupt.
Fine. We're narrowing somewhere, but before I go to Prof now, let's join Kingsley. Kingsley is calling in from Aba, Abia State. Hello, Kingsley.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome to TV Live.
I have my question. The two religions, the major religions are preaching peace and love. But who are those that are running over churches, going to mosque and destroying things in the mosque? If the two religions are preaching peace and love, that's my question.
Okay. Thank you, Kingsley. I think I'll get back to the two of you on that. I think from the angle we have taken now, we are narrowing somewhere now. And I take this question to Professor Zamani. The public, the security challenge in Nigeria paints a bad picture of our values. The elderly as a nation, as security experts, what strategies and how do we cope insecurity in Nigeria? Because most of the bulk of the insecurity challenges, if you look at it, is tied to religion most times. If I want to commit in an enclave, I blow religious sentiments and have my way. How can we cope this in this peace-building effort?
Well, I think that question is a very big question.
Absolutely.
It's a very big question. I'll just attempt to answer it. But let me throw up a few issues again. We have taken our discussion on peace building straight to the macro level without minding the micro. And the micro has to do with the individual. the peace that the individual has, that makes him to function, and that makes him productive, that makes him interpersonally relevant. We have not discussed on sex, those things that define our values, our attitudes, and therefore our sense of responsibility to each other. It was in that context that I was talking about religiosity without spirituality. And I still emphasize that. We can't practice religion without spirituality and hope that we are going to change society, and hope that we're going to have peace in society, and hope that there will be security in society. No, it's not possible. I, as a university lecturer, I get worried when, reports are made to me that a lecturer is asking for sex for marks. That's how bad my own system is. I'm not exonerating myself. Or is asking for money in order to pass somebody. The corruption in the university is there. Many of our students in the universities are on drugs. They lack personal peace. Our Imam just talked about cultism. It's a reality. And these cultists are agents of destruction. They are agents of violence. They are people that are appropriated by some elements in society, most of them elders, most of them politicians, most of them community leaders, depending on what their agenda is, to undermine fellow human beings, to the extent that they take life. There is moral depravity. We have chaplaincies and mosques in the universities. And yet these things continue to grow. Now, who is responsible? Certainly not the religious leaders. But we do not want a situation whereby the religious leader will be compromised, for instance, like the bishop said, that some politicians have hijacked religious leaders. They are supposed to be gatekeepers. And in my opening statements, I said that, look, the leadership of this nation, as far as I'm concerned, should be given by religious leaders. Our politicians should follow suit. They are the people who expose the precepts of morality from the scriptures to all of us. The lecturer, the professor who asks for sex, for marks, is morally depraved. He has knowledge, but he's morally depraved. It is the imam, it is the bishop that should lead him out of this rottenness. That is the point. So we have people who lack personal peace. And because they lack personal peace, it is very, very difficult for us. Very, very difficult for us to have societal or communal peace. Now, there is a sense in which we are beginning to have structural violence. The institutions of governance, of leadership that we have are now being violated. And to the extent that their violation affects my fundamental human rights, I'm going to resist. We have what we now call cultural violence. These things are there. If what defines my identity, my essence as a human being, is being violated by another person who thinks he has instruments of power, who thinks he has a social status, which endows him with such power that he can undermine my identity, then I will insist on being myself. You know, and so we are having people who are overtaken by paranoid tendencies, and people, of course, who are affected by violence are now harboring unforgiveness. For God's sake, how can we have peace? How can we have security? So it is in the hearts of men that we must plant the seed of peace, and then we'll have security.
Yes, that's true.
So we are going closely now to the fact that part of the problem, even within the governance process, is what you have just said. So how can we, for instance, we have our brothers, our sisters, our uncles within the governance process, the politicians, they all belong to one religious sect or the other, one religious denomination or the other, either Christian or Muslim. How can we curtail them? Because this is one of the problems.
Yeah. As we all know, first of all, the religious leaders, as they were as role model to the society. Believe me, the misunderstanding that is existing between the Nigerians, to my own understanding, this is something that I can say it is alien.
Oh dear.
Yes. Going back in our history, we are living together in peace with everybody. In the Quran, we have one chapter called Chapter of Mary. That is the name of the chapter. Quran is very clear on how Mary gave birth to Jesus miraculously. Miraculously. This is what Quran says.
Because the fact is that if, for instance, a Christian wants to go and mess up a Muslim or cause confusion somewhere, he goes to Bishop, for instance. If Bishop is one of those fundamentalists, say this one out to go, and Bishop would now pick scriptures to justify that, and the guy moves, vice versa.
You see, no religious leader that will take scripture to approve what somebody is going to do if that thing is established. No way. I remember my neighbor, who was a Christian, she came to me. She said, please, Imam, this is my problem. How can you help me to solve this and that? Please, I need guidance. As a Muslim, and she knows that I'm an Imam, but she came to me, and I guided her. This is how you do this, do that. So we are living in peace for over 20 years now. I remember at times, one lady who is my neighbor going towards Sheraton area. I said, my sister, where are you going? Said, I'm going to Sheraton. Can I join you so that I will drop at the mosque? She said, okay, why not? This is to show the understanding between Muslim and Christians. So if you see somebody using the religious name to go and commit atrocity in the society, he is not backed by the religious leaders.
Maybe when we come back from break, we'll look at the advocacy by Bishop. If the federal government will really look into the creation of a federal minister of religious affairs, if this solve the problem. But before we go on break, we'll get to that. Yeah. Mohammed is calling in from Abuja. Hello, Mohammed. Welcome to Tuesday Live. Oh, we lost that call. Well, when we return, we'll continue with you, but fundamentally, we'll still go to Kaduna and Jos. But looking at how will the Ministry of Religious Affairs sustain peace-building efforts and check religious crises, anti-corruption, even among politicians in the country. After this break, the focus again is Tuesday Live, and we're looking at peace-building tied to the lessons of Eid al-Kabir.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Ministry of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying tuned. Well, the focus once again is peace building and the lesson of Eid al-Kabir. If truly there's harmony among the religious groups, religious leaders, Christians, Muslims in Nigeria, then we are halfway through, because from the discussion here so far, one message I've taken is that Nigeria is one of the most religious nations in the world. We have the good, the bad, the ugly religious leaders in the country. We also have the good, the bad, the ugly followership in the country. Well, in putting together this topic, we went to the streets to feel the pulse of Nigerians on this issue. Let's take a listen to that.
Eid al-Kabir, as we all know, supposed to be one of the fundamental pillars for we Muslims to take into cognizance the importance of humanity. Within, if you look at from the previous period of the Ramadan fasting up till the period of this Eid al-Kabir, which is, it shows a lot of significance. From the Ramadan, you are trying to build on consensus on how to have pity over people who could not feed, to also feel what hunger is to human. At the same time, if you look at the Eid al-Kabir, where you have enough, you are supposed to give to those less privileged. I haven't seen that significant of what hunger is within that few period you are restrained.
From history, all religion point to one end, that is Almighty God. This period symbolizes obedience, perseverance, and commitment to the will of God, and keeping promise before Almighty God. we all accepted that Almighty God is the creator of mankind, and obedience to His instructions, His directive, obviously will create love, unity, and progress in any known society.
We have seen in Eid al-Kabir the true spirit of Islam: peace, unity, and brotherhood. And we have seen all people from all walks of life, from all religions and from all ethnic groups come together in the hope that we will have the peace and the good and the virtue of Eid al-Kabir. And of course, in accordance with the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I have seen so much unity because it did happen on a Sunday, and our Christian brothers and sisters were going to church on a Sunday. I saw that unity, I saw that compassion, I saw that tolerance, and I hope that it will go beyond this year's Eid al-Kabir. I hope that it will go beyond this generation. I hope it goes up to generations yet unborn. And I'm sure Nigerians are ready for this kind of unity.
Slaughtering is an act of ibadat, you understand, and so you get a lot of rewards from slaughtering the ram. When you slaughter the ram, you divide it into three parts. The first part for your own family, the second part for your own friends, and then the third part for your neighbors. So you share it in that way, and by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, you get the reward.
Peace building in Nigeria within the Eid al-Kabir. Well, they have talked so much about Eid al-Kabir. Let me link up with Bishop Emerson. From what they have said, there's so much there about religious harmony. How do we build it? And yet, we don't find ourselves to be divided. Because that's the point, like Prophet said earlier.
The religious harmony is like we had on comments. And Prof said something about personal peace, your own personal peace. Don't forget, even though we generalize religion, people still have their internal disharmony, and they will transfer it to society. And the man there commented on the religious tolerance. I want to correct that thing. I don't like that word tolerance. You tolerate me because I'm stupid and foolish, and so you are managing me. Nigerians should correct that word tolerant to religious harmony and religious understanding, not tolerant. Because already the word tolerant, what do you tolerate? You tolerate what you don't accept. You tolerate what is not right. I know it has some bit of emphasis on patience, but not tolerant again. We should change that language to, that's why I talk about Ministry of Religious Affairs. Because if we don't emphasize Ministry of Religious Affairs, it is better for religious leaders to interface with themselves on religious matters. It is very good for them to speak in the language they would understand. Politicians should not wake up overnight and develop policies that at the end they do a somersault. People should allow religious leaders, even most of the interfaith activities will coalesce together, they will come together. Religious leaders will be able to talk to themselves. And the first time I entered a mosque was because I had an interfaith program with an imam. And I'm sorry, I've never entered a mosque all my life. And then I was able to talk with my imam friend, we discussed, and I still believe what I believe. He still believes what he believes. And funny enough, he came to Calabar and entered our church. He entered our church. Government was not there to regulate us, to encourage us, to motivate us. The Ministry of Religious, are there people not going to pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia and in Jerusalem? They are going. But they should not be under another ministry of, or is it social welfare? Social welfare is not religious affairs. Government must take the bull by the horn. After all, traditional rulers have been given their place in governance. They have their hierarchy. Religious leaders should be allowed to interface. The religious leaders will solve their problems. They will solve their problems. Government will not solve problems for religious leaders. We know ourselves. Like in Christianity, we know ourselves. If you try to begin to observe what is happening in Christianity and come to use the law and the machete and the carrot and stick to correct it, you are going to have a boomerang that can burn down this country. Same thing with Islamism. You cannot just enter into mosque and into religious Islamic affairs.
Let's migrate to Kaduna. And I know it's been a long wait for Kaduna and Jos, where Imam Muhammad Al-Shafa. Imam Muhammad Al-Shafa, you have been following our discussion over here, and coming from what Bishop Emma Isong is saying, and also to the fact that truly, if religion, which is a very strong factor in Nigeria, which is one of the factors that has kept us as a diverse nation, the leaders get it right through all the denominations, what would be the place of transparency, corruption, and service to the nation?
Thank you very much. I think this is very, very clear and very important. The key important issue is when we talk of transparency and accountability, in our religious tradition as children of Abraham, one, there's accountability to God and accountability to fellow human beings. These are very, very clear fundamental principles in every religion. Nothing goes for nothing in a religion. Even a smile, there is a reward for how you smile with your neighbor or to your neighbor. These are key that we need to understand. The second important point I want to go through before coming to the key important issue he raised about the Federal Ministry of Religious Affairs, I think one important thing we're missing is that today there is no reward for doing good in this country. How many religious leaders are being honored in this nation because of their commitment or their dedication to this nation? We have two living examples. A Muslim Fulani religious leader, a Muslim Fulani who saved the life of over 200 people in Plateau State, specifically the life of Biron people in Plateau State, over 200 of them. These are ideal religious leaders. He's a religious leader at the community level, at the micro level, not the macro level, at the micro level. He saved the life of all. Here is a young Air Force officer, the second one, who returned over 30,000 euro. You are talking about almost 10 million naira plus. The money he found, discovered, and returned back to the owner, and searched for the owner and returned the money to him. This man said, I'm motivated by my religion to do so, because I know I'm going to be accountable to God if I spend that money. This is one of the answers he gives. The important thing is, how much have we given a reward, a pat on the shoulder for those who are doing wonderfully well? The second important thing is today, I want to address the issue of saying the value or the role are interfaith relation yielding result or not. Just with what the bishop have said, it is very clear in this country that today, I remember some years back when we started interfaith relation, it was a foreign thing, an uncommon thing. Why shouldn't a Muslim and a Christian work together? But today there are proliferation of interfaith relations that are symbol of building bridges. When people see religious leaders working together, living what they say, the followers emulate. We see that example in Interfaith Mediation Center, which myself and my colleague, Pastor James Movewie, did. We see this example in Interfaith Dialogue Forum for Peace, where over 100 religious leaders, Muslim and Christian, come together in Nigeria. We see it in Interfaith Initiative for Peace, which our Sultan, the present Sultan Muhammad Saad Abubakar and Cardinal Onayeka are pioneering, working together to build a bridge of a better understanding using interfaith platform, to which many people have seen as a model of building bridges and removing the fear of unknown that creates this so-called dichotomy. I think one of the other important things that we need to look into today and we need to work upon is the issue of religious leaders going outside the box, moving outside the box, outside the pulpit. No more talking about religiosity, but about value of interpersonal relationship. Interpersonal relationship. We know many people will not go to heaven simply because they harm their neighbor. God will never accept them. In Islam, Muhammad made it clear, even if you hurt an animal, you may go to hell for hurting an animal. And I believe the same in Christianity. They will have values that tell you you cannot have grudges with your neighbor and walk into the temple to worship God. Go back and settle what you have with your neighbor. We have these values. How do we build interpersonal relationship? Our religious leaders move from worship to service. Worship to service to humanity. This is the key important factor that is missing in our society. And we have that under a platform called what we call the golden rule. Love for your neighbor what you love for yourself. How do we promote the golden rule? To say your neighbor doesn't mean somebody in your faith or your tradition. For example, in Islam, my neighbor is whoever is on my hand side, in my right, in front and back, 40 houses left and right and center to me. And I hold obligation to their honor, to their protecting their property, protecting their dignity, and protecting their life. My life is online for them as long as these four important components of my neighbor's life is in danger. How much are we promoting this across the line? And very importantly, I want us to reflect deeper and say that if indeed there's going to be this Ministry of Religious Affairs, sir, politicization of religion and religionization of our political process, how will the politician not meddle into religious affairs? Right now, they follow us to our churches, and they are polluting some weaker one among us. Now, if we have a Ministry of Religious Affairs, this freedom between the state and religion, how do we guide these principles? How do you create a template where the politician will not now clearly hijack the values of our religion to attain their political agenda? How will they become so neutral, impartial in their leadership, because they will be financing the ministry, and they will be running the ministry, and then they will appoint whoever is going to be there? How did they do it? At the same time, remain neutral, or leave Khan to carry all the Christian body, and JNI or Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs to carry the Muslim bodies, give them a parallel place to run their assemblies without any interference from the government? I feel the neutrality of our religious body is a key important component. How can we keep it? How will our religious leader, our politician, be so important, be so matured in heart, not to use this strong energy? Because religious leader, we have the largest constituency in Nigeria. The largest constituency. You don't need to pay for vote. You don't need to go through canvas. I just stand and carry my Quran. I start reading, and everybody follow line and say, no matter your degree, you follow the imam. That is what it is in Islam. And I believe the same thing when the pastor is talking. Many Christians believe it is God speaking to us through the voice of the pastor. How can you go into that field? Then you still cross. How do you move it? If you have Ministry of Religious Affairs, how that neutrality and impartiality? This is my own fear. It's a good idea, but these are my own fear. For our nation to succeed, religious leaders must be on the driver's seat of the heartbeat of our citizen. Not politicizing religion. Remove religious leaders out of politics. Become neutral empires. That's why in Interfaith Mediation Center in Kaduna we say religious leaders must remain neutral and impartial. When you want to become politics, resign as an imam. Go and become a politician. Let's know you are a politician and join party A or party B or party C. If we do this, we take our nation. Our honor as religious leader will be protected, and we take our nation to the next level.
If Joss is on, we'll go to Joss, but if Joss is not on, we're back here in Abuja. If the director can confirm that. Okay, now back. Mental issues, which takes me to the next question. But let me start with Prof. Let me go to Prof. Now, we have all of us working in any sector, public, private sector, corporate Nigeria, security, and what have you, coming from either a church, coming from either a mosque, or any sect we can call it. We embezzle monies. We cause confusion, and our members, our bishops, our imams know us. How can we be handled? Because given the influence, you have heard what Ashafa said, that they hold the biggest constituency in Nigeria. Yet, I belong to a church, you belong to a church, he belongs to a mosque, he belongs to a mosque. I still have the effrontery to put my hand to the public treasury to steal money, to embezzle money, to cause confusion. Yet I know my pastor knows this, my imam knows this. How can we handle it?
Yeah, when Imam was making a comment a few minutes ago, he alluded to the fact that the devil fights them too. And in fact, they experience more demonic attacks than their congregants. And he's not far from the truth. Those of us who do secular work, who belong to different faiths that are led by the imams and the pastors, do all that we can to compromise them by giving them accolades that should go to God, by stealing and feeding what we believe is their poverty, material poverty. And for those of them that are vulnerable, of course, what they tend to do is first to acclaim, to recognize, to give us front seat in religious services, some of them. And then, there's a collusion to continue in corruption. And it is impossible to defeat sin in that respect. Now, thank God that some of us belong to a generation, of socialization by, true men of faith. One of the things that I was taught by my father, whom I said is a pastor, is to know the Word of God and to be led by the Word of God. And I believe that is what my spiritual father, the Imam here, would tell his children, and that's what he would tell his congregants. We are practicing religion without precepts. People feel that they can abdicate the role of spiritual or religious security to our religious leaders and not do nothing.
Just a second, you conclude. Let's join Uchenna from Lagos. He's online. Hello, Uchenna. Welcome to Tuesday Live. Well, Prof, just conclude. We'll go to Joss.
Yes. So, you see, our congregants should know that they also have personal responsibility for their souls. Our spiritual leaders are guides, and we should listen to them. And that we bear double punishment if we try to compromise our spiritual leaders. We have a responsibility to know what the scriptures say and to go by the scriptures. Secondly, we have the responsibility to ask to be guided in areas that we have confusion about while reading the scriptures. We also have the responsibility to practice what is in the scriptures, because what is lacking is the practice also of that. Because the scripture says, thou shalt not steal. Then why do I go to the office to steal? Thou shalt not commit adultery. Then why do I do it? And then I hope that because I have 100,000 in my kitty, when I go to church on Sunday and I donate it, God would obviously be pleased with me. You don't bribe God. You don't bribe God. I'll give you an example. I used to work in a teaching hospital, Gwagwalada Teaching Hospital, University of Abuja Teaching Hospital, a few years ago. One day I was seated in my office, and they said one Fulani man, an elderly man, wanted to see me. I wondered who that man could be. So I left and went as a service provider to meet that person who wanted to see me. He introduced himself as somebody who was from Baduma Hills here, who brought a patient that he had nursed in some private hospital for a long time, but who didn't get well, and eventually got referred to the University of Abuja Teaching Hospital. He was knocked down by a hit-and-run driver. And that guy who was knocked down was a Gbaji man, a Christian. He was a Gbaji man and a Christian, whom this Fulani elderly Muslim man had kept for more than a month and treated in a hospital. When the man eventually got referred, he accompanied him and paid for his care up front. That was, in the Bible, a good Samaritan. But he was worried that distance would not permit him to be personally involved. So he asked, is there no big man here who is a Gbaji man? So they invited me.
Are you Gbaji?
I'm Gbaji.
Okay.
And so he presented the problem and said, this is my predicament. Can you please hold forth for me? I was challenged. That is a man who has been well brought up. This is a man who knows the Quranic scripture. This is a man who practices, the Quran. That's the way we should go. We should know the scriptures. We should know that we have personal responsibility for our souls, and that our spiritual leaders are guides. All right? Much as we strive to please God, we should also pray for them so that they will be enhanced to continue to nurture us spiritually.
Okay.
And that would work.
Yeah. Let's go to Jos before we come back for maybe a concluded end of it. Now, what I'll simply ask Dr. Khalid Aliyu is, from what all you have heard from this end, what now? What next?
Well, I think it is said charity begins at home. Our homes have become deficits of moral teachings. We have thrown all the good values we used to have of being brothers keepers, loving one another, good neighborliness, support and help, and taking to something else. What next is the home front. The home front is indeed really very important. This is one. Two, I think it is important to really, the social media aspect has battered us, has really taken us to a level that is so disastrous, that is so devastating, that our home-based training of the past days or years have become diminished, that you can write whatever you want, abuse whomever you want, fabricate lies, and then send. I think we must have a way in trying to really check the menace of the misuse of the social media in its in the contemporary society. Furthermore, before, you see, I mean, utterances, speeches are really based on, I mean, refined words and so on and so forth. But today, hate speech has really permeated the whole strata of the society. Hate there, hate here, and so on and so forth. From the politicians to the common man in the market to the students in our academic environments to even between religious leaders and so on and so forth. We really have to have a way to deal with hate speech. Furthermore, before, to tell a lie, to fabricate a lie is seen as a very heinous crime, even at the level of the community. That if somebody is described as a liar, then it is really a bad tagging on him. But today, they even call blatant lies as white lies and so on and so forth. 3. 4, I want to also really, I think both print and electronic media that both these institutions have ethics of profession. Sometimes you don't seem to differentiate between what is in social media and in pages of our own newspapers and some really electronic media institutions. Where are these ethics? Verifying information and so on and so forth. And media for reconciliation, media for unification, media for really for education. Where have these things really, where have they gone? This is indeed very, very important. 5, I think our political gladiators, political actors, really, I think there is an important emergency for them to check themselves inwards. Sometimes the quality of the debate, sometimes the lack of cohesion between them in terms of the way they behave leaves much to really to be desired. I want to chip in here in terms of thinking that the solution is in bringing on board Ministry for Religious Affairs. I wonder in which type of dispensation. In the present dispensation, I hope that will not do more harm than good. Because the way it is, it will be politicized from all angles. And in the end, you widen the scope of the conflict that we are trying to really manage. This is indeed very important. Furthermore, you look at the myriad of problems of insecurity, corruption, kidnapping, and armed robbery, banditry, and so on, because we have lost the core values we used to have before. That even in a society, you don't even bring something that is doubtful to the parents or to the community and for those things to be accepted. But materialism has really overshadowed our sense of reason. And you see, the cankerworm, the scourge, the disease of corruption. Corruption can manifest in so many ways you will never think. I tell you, all these things we are talking about, violent conflicts, kidnapping, armed robbery, brigandage, this stealing, corruption. Stealing, if you look at it, it has one aspect of corruption or the other. Unfortunately, sometimes within the community, they will tell you, hey, continue to be upright. Look at this. Just somebody who has not even gotten as much academic qualification like yourself, but he has made it, he has built a house, he has bought posh cars, he built for his parents, and so on and so forth. And seventhly, I think our academic institutions need to be purified, really. You know, unfortunately today, when the visitor comes, the president or his representative, the orator of the university will say, Mr. President, these are the people found in worthy character and learning. They don't character anything. They don't learn anything. And they don't do anything. A graduate today who cannot even compose himself. Even somebody told me, if I go very strictly, the sitting position of somebody with a PhD who came for an interview is enough to disqualify him. Knowledge is not about memorizing and I know theory A, Y, Z. Knowledge or education, by simple definition, is the moral inculcation.
Aliyu for his concluding segment there. Now, judging from what we heard from Kaduna and Jos, when can we go back to when I was a child, if my dad speaks to me and says, I'll report to the Reverend, I'm cautioned. Just somewhere around June, July 2010, there was a football match among media organizations. Bishop happens to be a patron of the NUJ. There was supposed to be a crisis. I was the team manager of one of the teams, and we're all media practitioners. There was supposed to be a fisticuff, but just one word from him, there was order. Oh, because Bishop spoke.
I was there.
So, when can we go back to that? How soon? Because that's the problem. Where you hear maybe your member has done something and just a phone call and it's off pedals.
First of all, we have to always have faith in God. We have to believe in Him. Allah made mention in the Holy Quran that, O you mankind, we have created you male and female, and we have created you to be in different nations, different tribes, but you should know that the best among you is he who have faith in Allah. The best among you is he who fears Allah. Whatever you do, you should know that you are going to be accountable for it on the day in which you have no somebody to protect you. We should come to understand that when somebody dies, he is going to his grave alone. Even his beloved wife may not accompany him. So we have to educate ourselves to know this first. Our leaders have to understand, yes, they are there on that leadership simply because they are to lead the entire community or the society or the nation, but they should have the fear of God. They should have the fear of God in what they are doing. In fact, when a leader is trying to bring a policy, first of all, he should not think of himself. He should not think of his children. He should think the entire humanity. How can this benefit the society? How can this may bring harm to the society? If it will bring harm, definitely he has to withdraw. If it is going to benefit the society, of course, he has to support it. So we have to come to the level that, yes, whoever come up with good things, we Nigerians supposed to support him. Okay. And whoever come up with bad things, we have to make case. Say, no, this is wrong. This is rubbish. So, Alhamdulillah, I think, yes, we can get there still. But there are so many things that to be done. For example, in our NYSC, we have orientation camp where you have all the corpus. I would like to advise, apart from the effort made by the religious leaders to go there and preach, in this case, I want the government itself to invite the religious leaders officially. Please talk to these young men and women. Tell them what God says on how to behave. When you behave well, of course you will succeed. But You see, if you go to our camp, only the effort of religious leaders themselves. In fact, sometimes we do go and we will be denied access. So at least there is need for government to come to understand, yes, religion has place in the society.
Okay.
Because we talk what God says. When a religious leader is talking, he is not saying this word from his own mind or heart. No. In fact, it is God himself that is talking through his mouth. That is how it's supposed to be. So, the religious leader himself, he should know that whatever he is doing, he is going to be accountable. Because he was not given the license simply because he was a religious leader to lead people astray. No. It is clearly there in the scripture. If you do good, of course, good things will happen to you.
Okay.
If you do wrong, that will affect you and it will even affect your family. So we have to understand, yes, kindness is the key. Having faith in God is also the instrument of success in life.
To Bishop Emerson, before I go to Prof, good a thing this program is holding ahead of the induction retreat of ministers designated for the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the next regime. As they are going for this induction tied to the topic we are discussing now, what now, what next?
Our ministers designate, apart from having their portfolios given to them and their official assignment, should look nationalistic. My problem with some of these appointees is that they are more loyal to their political parties, not minding that elections are over. Even though you were voted under the auspices or umbrella of a particular political party, you owe responsibility to perform for the generality of Nigerians. For instance, if you tie a road, that road is not a particular party's road. The vibe is so high because somebody has been appointed from your village, from your town, has my man. Even people on newspapers protesting over appointments. If every minister is performing to with a nationalistic and patriotic mind, I wouldn't mind where you come from. I wouldn't mind which region or political zone that you are appointed, because your performance will justify. I mean, your excellency will justify. Or is there any road that only Yorubas will pass? Or is there any power station that only the Akwa Ibom people will... You know, you see, if we are talking of nation building, all political appointees should drop their nomenclatures and pick up patriotism. We should salute the national flag. We should follow the dictate of the national anthem. We should have responsibility to the nation. There is no commitment to the nation. I'm not against somebody going to his village to celebrate. People are picked from states to show federal character. I appreciate it. I thank God for it, for the wisdom of whoever found that in a diverse society like Nigeria. But can a federal minister, for God's sake, know that he's not a commissioner in his state? He's a federal minister. Like we're talking about Ministry of Religious Affairs. I just remember, Nigeria is not going to be the only nation that will have Ministry of Religious Affairs. I'm going to Zambia very soon. The letter signed to me is signed by the Ministry of Religious Affairs. And also, we should not be shy. There's always apprehension in a new thing. Government is getting involved in religion. Why not have religious affairs ministry? For instance, all these pilgrimages. I mean, we are still doing the same thing we say we should not do. We are doing it. Government is going to churches. Churches are going to government. Mosque is going to churches. This will make us to interface. If a Christian is a federal minister, a Muslim is minister of state, the next appointment, of course, a Muslim will be federal minister. There will
diversity is playing out
yes,
now.
there will be unity. Zambia has federal minister of religious affairs, and many African nations and European nations have Ministry of Religious Affairs. I don't know why Nigeria would be such a big thing that would distract us. I don't see distraction. But over to your question, all our federal ministers should know that, one problem with the federal ministers is that they did not contest election. And that is very dicey. That makes them not to have a real particular responsibility towards the electorate, unlike the president, unlike the government.
They're there to drive the policy.
Yeah, they are there to drive the policy, but their sense of responsibility, I'm trying to tell you, you didn't vote for me attitude. You didn't vote for me, so, but I'm trying to advise them. The portfolio is for Nigerians. Okay. For instance, if you come from Delta State, for instance, when you resume office, you shouldn't Deltanize your office. If you come from Akwa Ibom State, everybody from your reception to the security should not be Akwa Ibom State. So the federal ministers must be federal in mind. They should develop the entire country. In fact, they are the people, like you said, who drive us to the next level. They are the drivers of the policies of the federal government.
Thank you.
So I think, to me, that's my little advice.
Okay. The Prof, I still remain with you with the same question. What now, what next?
First, we should drive the virtue of truth. In whatever we do, we should promote the truth. Encourage people to tell the truth. Secondly, we should promote justice, because there cannot be peace without justice. Number three, for peace building, let us promote reconciliation. There are many people who have been hurt and are still hurting. All right, let it not be that there is no solution for how they feel and how they think. Let us promote reconciliation. And then let those who have leadership roles at all levels, in all spheres of life, as far as our nation is concerned, begin to engineer socio-economic transformation so that what we call democracy, the vehicle by which we drive change and promote development, would give everybody the dividend that he deserves. Then we will be a happy people.
Okay. Thank you. Let's take a last thought from our Kaduna Network Center.
For me, if you ask me, the last thing I would say, this is a moment of sober reflection. Religion has given so much to Nigeria. Our national anthem, our national flag, our coat of arms, our oath of office, everything is hung around religion, including our constitution. The opening word in the constitution, in the name of God, an end, we people under God. We have so much about God in our traditions, but in our day-to-day life, to God, we have no country but Nigeria. And we have to work together to make Nigeria a better country. It is our destiny, and we have no place. I want us to think as the native Indian would say. When he met his son, he told his son, he said, this is a gift. This is a trust, the treasury from my grandfather to give to his grandchildren. So therefore, I'm entrusting Nigerian to you as a treasury for your grandchildren. We have Nigerian from our parents and grandparents. And what are we handing over to our children for their grandparents? This is a question we should ask ourselves. We should learn from nations who really, tribalism, have destroyed those nations. And they are never together again. Former Yugoslavia is a good example. How tribalism and sectionalism have destroyed that country. Nigeria must not go that way. Rwanda is another example on the continent of Africa. We know what they go through for them to get back. 1/3 of that nation was destroyed. Nigeria must not go Rwandan way. We must learn not to go even the youngest nation on Africa, South Sudan. We saw the names of hate speeches, ethnicity have caused the new nation to start sinking even from the birth. Nigerians, we have to learn from people around us. We have to learn from people around us that this nation belongs to all of us. And I want to use this medium to beg our politicians to please, in a democratic setting, there's a clear distinction between politicking and politicization and the art of governance and the issue of religiosity and religiosity in a democratic setting. If we are running a democracy, we have to guard against that. I want to appeal to our religious leaders to use this opportunity to know that misuse of religion to attain a self-centered goal is an abomination in Abrahamic tradition, and no one will go unpunished. Today, we have to promote zero corruption. If a member of my church or a member of my mosque suddenly become a millionaire and is bringing a tithe to my church, I shall have the right to reject it. In the days of my fathers, where they reject tithes that come from people that the sources of their money is unknown. We will only have a better Nigeria when we started rejecting evil, we reject corruption and corrupt-free.
Faith Mediation Center, Kaduna. It was not having you on Tuesday Live. Thank you so much. And back to the studio before I take the last word from Just Network Center. Let me concentrate on you. Your very last sentence, very briefly. We don't have time.
Nigerians always respect themselves. Nigerians always accept others, and we have to understand ourselves. We have to keep faith to our country, Nigeria.
Thank you so much. And going to Jos, Dr. Khalid Aliyu, your very last line. What now, what next?
Well, selflessness, transparency, and love and forgiveness. But all these things are only achievable when justice is there in play. And that it is important that our laws must be strengthened and our security agencies must work according to the ethics of their profession. Love for humanity, love for the neighbor, love for the old, love for the young, respect for the spouse, and building the family is the bedrock for peaceful coexistence in this country, as exemplified in the father of all messengers of prophets, Prophet Abraham. May the peace and blessings of God be upon him. May God take us to that promised land when these problems will become once upon a time, and we now begin to think of ideas for socio-political and economic development. Thank you.
Dr. Khalid Aliyu, Secretary General, Jarmatu Nasri Islam. It was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight. Thank you. And back in Abuja, let me be very democratic. Bishop Emerson, last word.
As a Christian leader, the only way to fight corruption, stop disharmony, reduce crime, as a preacher, is for one to surrender his life to Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 17, it said, when a man is in Christ, he's a new creature. All things are passed away. You are not a Christian because you swore with an holy Bible. You are a Christian because you surrendered your life to Jesus Christ as Savior. If you do that, tendency to be corrupt, commit crime will be out of your way.
Well, my director will crucify me if I continue from here. Time will not allow us. I must say we have come to the end of Tuesday Live tonight. We looked at peace building and lessons